Hi everyone, I'm Steve Andrews, also known as the Bard of Ely, and on Saving Mother Ocean, I am talking to other activists about saving Mother Ocean, saving Mother Earth, saving the planet. And my guests are activists, and activists come in many different forms because we're all doing what we can to save the world. But there aren't many activists who are kings. And today I'm absolutely delighted to have with me my good friend King Arthur Pendragon. And Arthur is in a book, and you can see the book there, The Trials of Arthur. And Arthur has been on the front lines of trying to save the land in the UK, and also he's been very involved with Stonehenge. He's been very involved in many forms of action. But it's over to you, Arthur. Please, say a bit about your background and what you're doing.
Well, as you say, I've been involved in fighting for planet Earth, if you like, Gaia, the goddess beneath our seat, and I've been involved since the 80s, really, and I was one of the people at various places such as Twyford Down and the Newbury bypass, which some of your listeners and viewers will have heard of. In fact, a number of others since then. Also, as you rightly say, I've been heavily involved in Stonehenge. In fact, in 1999, I took Majesty's government to the European Court of Human Rights over Stonehenge and the so-called exclusion zone that they put around it, because for a number of years you couldn't get within 5 miles over a 3-day period over the solstice. So I took it to the European Court, and funnily enough, it's quite interesting that the young barrister who assisted me went on to bigger things, as it were. Some of your listeners and viewers may know of him as the leader of Her Majesty's opposition, Keir Starmer. In fact, as a young barrister, he was working as a civil rights attorney, and he was loaned to me by Liberty, who at that time were the Campaign for Civil Liberties. And we took it to the European Court in 99. So that was in 98, rather. That was November of 98. So in 99, they tried an all-ticket event because they decided they had to let us in because of my ruling in the European Court. In fact, we lost the case, but the European Court ruled the exclusion zone that I was challenging was only legal if they could prove it was in the interests of national security, which of course they never could and never applied for it again. So as I said, in 99, they had an all-ticket event. I told them it wouldn't work, and it didn't. Most of us stayed out. I was offered ticket number 001 and refused it. And I stood outside with everybody else till the fence went down, and we all went in. I got taken out a few times and a few broken ribs later. But by 2000, they said, okay, Arthur, you've always said it would be self-policing. Guess what? Now's your chance. We're putting you in charge of the stewarding of it. That was in 2000. Well, it's what, 2020 odd now, and we're still getting in 4 times a year, equinoxes and solstices. We get in at Stonehenge, and it passes without any major incident. And when you look at the sort of numbers we get at Stonehenge, they're equivalent to a small town. And at a weekend, you're always going to get people, getting in trouble in a small town. Let's put it that way. Well, it doesn't happen at Stonehenge. So it passes off very peacefully and has done for 20 odd years now. But it's not just been going for 20 odd years. It's been going for thousands of years. And that's the whole point. Our ancient ancestors in and around Stonehenge, I'm a druid, but they were proto-druids, the priest caste of the time, who were the wise men of the time who made Stonehenge. You've got to remember, Stonehenge was built at a time we're changing over from hunter-gatherers to agriculturalists. And the wise men of the time put the stones in certain places so they could tell the time of year. Initially, it's a great solar clock. It's a sundial, but it doesn't tell you the time of day, it tells you the time of year. And that was very important to the ancients. They had to plant at the right time, or the frost would get the crop. If the frost got to the crop, the whole community would be wiped out. So people started coming at those times of year that it was set to mark out, which is the longest, the shortest, and the equal days. And the modern Druids today, myself included, still celebrate and still carry on that tradition. So there is a continuity of thousands of years at Stonehenge. But it's not just Stonehenge that's used at solstices and equinoxes. There are other solar temples around Britain and around the world. There are also a number of other ancient temples and sites where people celebrate what we call the agricultural festivals and the turning of the wheel, which is the year and the way it unfolds. And as pagans and Druids, we are inclined to be more earth-centric than people-centric. And so it's not any surprise that paganism and Druidry, like all the earth-based religions around the world, are on the increase. And to be part of that movement is, it's an honor to be part of that movement. And what happened in Newbury and places like that was there was a problem that I was faced with, because what happened, a number of senior Druids went along to the protest sites, myself included. One of the other senior Druids, head of another order, said, well, actually, we're Druids, we are spiritual, we are apolitical. We don't care whether the bypass is built or not. We're just here to bless the trees. Well, that to me sounded like a requiem mass, and I decided to do something about that. But first, it posed a problem, and the problem that I saw was, who was the real Druid? The guy on the ground with a white frock, or the guy up the tree with skin his neck? Well, the next day they evicted, and I found there was a third way, and it was the guy up the tree wearing the white frock. That's what I did, straight up the trees. Me and my order have been the warrior arm of the Druid movement, the political arm of the Druid movement ever since. And as part of the political arm, I stand for Salisbury as an MP. I stand as an independent, and I challenge the authorities. I mean, one of the senior Druids once said to me, well, actually, how can you be a Druid when you're always getting arrested? And I said, look, my order is sworn to fight for justice, and I can't find a better place to fight for justice than in a court of law. So if I believe a law is wrong, I will challenge it. And I have taken the government to court more times than they've taken me to court. And put it this way, I've got quite a long rap sheet. I've been arrested at all the best places. But that's it. I mean, some of us actually took the fight on and were frontline troops. Now, the thing is, we can't all be frontline troops, but we can support the people that are. And that's a big part of the modern protest movement, is the amount of people who support what we do and support us, whether it be financial, whether it be by writing letters to MPs, whether it be by taking cases, or whether it be by turning up and watching us take those cases, whether it's by protesting or supporting the people who are out there protesting. We can all play our part. And it's not just the land, obviously, as you rightly point out, it's the oceans, but it's the planet itself. It's the whole Gaia concept. I mean, one of the things, and I noticed something on your website, Steve, that brings this to bear. Now, a lot of the pagans have always argued with me in this country over a number of different things. And one of the things is that they've always claimed that the Christians stole a lot of our sites, which of course they did. There was a papal edict, and the papal edict was to put churches there, which made sense, because if people are going there to worship anyway, you might as well have a church there from a Christian point of view. So yes, there was a papal edict that suggested that they put churches on our sites, as the pagans would say it. But as I always explain to them, it's not our site. It's the genus loci. It's the spirit of the place. Now, a holy place is a holy place, and a sacred place is a sacred place. Now, if you worship at the same place for a number of years, it will become sacred. So whether Stonehenge ever was sacred or has become sacred is irrelevant. But the fact is, like many others, is a sacred place. Now, sacred place, as I say, is a sacred place. And it doesn't matter whether you put a synagogue on it, whether you put a temple on it, whether you put a church on it, a cathedral. It's the place itself that's sacred. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. And so I don't mind the fact that ancient pagan sites have got churches on them. If you think about churches and you think about them building churches in the ancient days, a lot of them were built near yew trees. Now, there's a reason for that, because they're perfect for shelter under a yew tree. So you sheltered under the yew tree while you was building your church. Subsequently, that's why so many ancient yews are in churchyards now. So there was, practical reasons why one religion would take over the land of another religion. It's the sacredness of the land itself.
Arthur, this is actually quite amazing what you touched on there, because I recently got hold of Peter Finch's book, Edging the City. And Peter Finch is a famous poet, a psychogeographer, and author from Cardiff. And Peter has got a book called Edging the City, in which he's walking all around the edges of the city of Cardiff, the border. And he's included me in the book. And what happened was that he was talking about when I was his guide to Ely in 2003, and we went to the Kyra Hill Fort. And I happened to mention to him that there was a church built on this ancient site. And I said something to him about that it doesn't really matter like what is here, because the energy of the place leaches into anything built onto it. And he's quoted what I said, and he said, Steve was right, and the holy remains holy. And
that's exactly how I see it. In fact, it was that quote that I saw on your website that brought it to mind, which is why I'm mentioning it now. But it's the genus loci, it's the spirit of the place itself that is holy. And Stonehenge is more akin to, let's say, a cathedral than a parish church. So it's of major importance from that point of view, but it is still just a holy place where people go for observances. In this case, Stonehenge is a place of observances where you observe the sun rising on the new season. So what we tend to do is there is a specific time. There is a specific time of a solstice or an equinox. It can be computed from space, if you like. It's a certain time when the Earth and the sun come together in a certain manner. So if the nearest dawn is the dawn before, you're actually celebrating the previous season. So we always celebrate it on the following dawn for that reason, because we are celebrating the new dawn of the new season. And we've taken a lot of time explaining that to the authorities here in Salisbury, i.e. English Heritage, who look after Stonehenge, and some of the other authorities who get involved. And as such, we now, on the correct dawn, get to be there 4 times a year. That's every solstice and equinox. Everybody's aware of the summer solstice, and it's on the bucket list, really, and people come from all around the world. But what they don't know, we're there all night for summer, and what people don't realize is we've been getting in at the winter and at the equinoxes in March and September every year since the 80s. So we get in 4 times a year, not just the one. But what's happening now is it is gradually getting out there. So now we're getting people from as far afield as South America joining us at the winter solstice, as well as equinoxes, and obviously at the summer solstice. And it's becoming quite a pilgrimage, and it's becoming a very important gathering point for the tribes. And basically, it's a very, very spiritual experience. Now, a lot of people said to me, especially pagans who were, to be quite honest, off on one, they would say to me, well, look, everybody's getting drunk. It's just a party. They're all coming for the wrong reasons. And to which I'd say, well, they may come for the wrong reasons, but they'll come back for the right ones. And the illustration I used to prove that was that there was a chap in front of me at one solstice. He didn't know it was me behind him. And he was shouting to somebody up on the stone saying, "Get off the stones." And I said from behind him, "That's rich coming from you. You was up there last year." To which he spat on his heels, saw it was King Arthur behind him and said, "No, that was a year before." Think about it. The first year he may have come for the wrong reasons and climbed up the stones. The second year he was proud of the fact he hadn't. And the third year he was part of the solution. He was telling them to get down off the stones. And that is how I explain to pagans that people may come for the wrong reasons, but they come back for the right ones. And that's why it's a place of pilgrimage. And that's why people keep coming back. And it's not just Stonehenge, it's the same with any of the major sites throughout the world. There are certain sites that draw people at certain times of year. And the times of year are calendar times, but they're not the Gregorian calendar or any previous to that. They're the natural calendar. It's the real year. Like I say, Stonehenge is a solar calendar, but it tells you the time of year. It doesn't tell you the time of day, nor does it tell you whether it's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. It tells you that it's coming up to the longest day of the year, or it's coming up to the shortest day of the year, or it's coming up to an equal day.
Thank you for explaining all that, Arthur. And one thing that you touched on earlier, which is important, is you were talking about Druids, and you've explained a bit about Druidry. But I know, obviously I know because I'm a member of your Druid order, I've been under your sword Excalibur, I'm a Quest Knight. But perhaps you could explain about your order, the Loyal Arthurian Warband.
Yeah, okay. Well, when you think of, let's use the romantic notion, shall we? When you hear King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, never existed. There never was a King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. That's the Hollywood image. There was a chieftain called Arthur. Now, the way I see it is, you know, there are 3 Arthurian ages, 3 Arthurs, 3 Excaliburs, 3 of everything. And it's not unusual within any religious belief structure to have a triad. But the 3 in this case are a pre-Roman archetypal Welsh, a post-Roman Dark Age British, and a post-Thatcher. And I am the post-Thatcher. My sword is a modern Excalibur, and it's made for a modern time and a modern Arthur. But my order are sworn to what we believe is the same virtues the ancient orders were sworn to, and that is truth, honor, and justice. Now, when you went beneath the sword, you was not taking the knee before a king. You was taking the knee before the sword. The sword is a symbol of office. The sword on which we swear, we swear to speak the truth, to honor our spoken word, and to be just and fair in all our dealings. And that is a triad that anyone can live by, because truth, to speak the truth, just means if you know it's right, say it. Honor means if you say it, do it. And justice means if you know it's wrong, don't do it. It's really that simple. And it's not my truth, my honor, or my justice that you swear to. Everybody swears to their own truth, their own honor, and their own justice. Now, some people I may never see again. I do mass knightings at protest sites and other places, and I may never see them again, but they will go off and magically they will work with truth, honor, and justice from then on, because it's their oath. They've made that oath, and they're answerable to themselves and that oath. So they will go and they will, I won't say they'll be better people. I will just say that they will go and they will have had a significant spiritual experience that will affect them henceforth. And when you think about it, truth, honor, and justice, we're sworn to, but it could just as easily be maiden, mother, and crone, or Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. It's an ancient triad.
I understand that, and again, and thank you for explaining that for all the people sort of watching this. The one thing you also said there was about like honoring your spoken word, and I know this is something that you do, something that I respect. That if you say you're going to do something, you do it. You stick by whatever it is, and you do it. And I remember the time where you actually made the headlines of the Guardian newspaper, and this was amazing when You know, you won that court. There was a court case against, well, basically to try and destroy Excalibur, and you were like on the headlines there. And I remember before you did that, which is what was important, that you led the march from Stonehenge all the way to London to get there for the day of the court case. And you were, you know, you did it. You said you were going to get your sword back. You got your sword back. You said you were going to lead that march to London. You led that march to London. And I remember as well, you were on the radio. You were on Steve Johnson's radio show. Perhaps you remember this from Ebbw Vale, and you were talking, you know, live on air that day. And you were making some very good points. You were talking about the Orange men from Ireland and about the Sikhs and the Wiccans and everybody who uses a ritual, an artifact as part of their religious belief, that they were threatened, their artifacts were threatened if Excalibur was destroyed. I remember.
Yes, that's right. I mean, I am a sword bearer of a Druid order, and were the judge, because it went to a judge, it didn't go to magistrates, it went all the way up to Southwark Crown Court. Were the judge to rule against me as a sword bearer, he would be also ruling against all the others. I mean, the Metropolitan Police have lodges and they have sword bearers. As you said, the Orange Order have lodges and they have sword bearers. And there are a number of religions that use religious artifacts in that manner. And I'm just one of them. I mean, one of the things that I done all the way through the protest movement was, because I'm not a Christian, I didn't swear on the Bible. So, but because I'm a Druid sword bearer, I swore on my sword, which was allowed in British law. I mean, yes, they had to change some of the laws around me when I was making some precedents in British law. But basically, you know, there are certain things that are worth fighting for, and I have fought and changed certain laws. There are a lot more that still need changing, and there are a lot more that don't. And that's where we're in that situation at the moment in Britain and around the world, where different governments are bringing in unnecessary laws to curb our liberties. And it's that we need to fight against, and we need to stand and be counted. But like I say, we can't all be frontline troops, but we can support the ones that are.
Yeah, yes, I see that. I see that the problems that we face in the UK are the problems that we face in America, the problems that we face in they're all the same problems worldwide.
That's correct. And people are standing to be counted. And, you know, when you think about it, and when you think of, again, Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, and you think about the pledge, and the pledge was that when Britain was in its time of need, they would return. Now, I can't think of a better time or need than now. And if, for instance, you buy into that mythology, you can buy into that mythology throughout the world. The heroes have returned. I mean, if Arthur and his knights are back for Britain, who's back for Brazil? Who's back for Argentina? Who's back for the Russian steppes, etc., etc.? So the heroes are needed at this time more than ever, but not just the heroes, the people behind them, the supporters. Basically, it's all about stand and be counted. And if you can't do it yourself, support someone who can. And that's really my message. And that should be everybody's message. Should just be, okay, if something's wrong, challenge it. If you can't challenge it, support someone that can. And that really is where I'd like to leave it, message-wise.
Okay, thank you so much for explaining all that. I agree with you completely. Like I said, I see the same problems worldwide, and I see the solution to them is the people to stand up and to do something about it all, take action. And I think, okay, the last thing I'd just like to basically ask you is about, because you are a politician, you stand in the elections every year. Maybe just say a bit about that. Because actually, I mean, I understand it. In a way, it is doing something about it. It's saying if the parties are no good, we don't like the politicians you've got in, well, let's change it. And that's something
Yeah. Yeah, it's something I've always believed in. I have always believed in democracy. I haven't always believed that we have the best form of democracy, but I have always believed in people power, if you like. The very first time I stood for politics, I was a member of the Green Party. I did not stand as a Green candidate, though, because I do not believe in party politics. Basically, I believe in free, independent politics by, for, and of the people. So when I stand as me, and I stand for, in this case, Salisbury. I don't stand for anywhere else. I'm not a party. I'm not allied to anybody else. So I give the voters of Salisbury a choice. They can vote for somebody who they know, who lives here in Salisbury and works down the road at Stonehenge as a Druid priest, or they can vote for a member of parliament who will, when they get into Westminster, they forget all about Salisbury. They will represent the party and the party line. One thing an independent cannot do is represent the party line, because there is no party. And that is what I believe in: free, independent politics by, for, and of the people. If you don't like what's on offer, get up and do it yourself. And again, as I said earlier, if you don't want to get up and do it yourself, well, support someone that does, or in this case, vote for someone that does.
Yes, to all of that, Arthur. I totally agree with you there. I get that, and I think now, because we're going to have to actually close this. I'm just going to ask you, like, if you've got anything you would like to leave, the viewers with, something you'd just like to get out there, and also, how can people find out more about you?
Well, people can find out more about me if they look up Uther Pendragon on Facebook. I've got a web presence out there, a number of websites. But initially, look me up on social media. You'll find out exactly what I'm up to and what I'm about. And again, like I say, my whole message is get out there and do something about it. And if you can't, support someone that is.
Well, Arthur, I can go with all of that. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been brilliant talking to you today. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I said the king of is coming. King of is coming. Well, king of is coming. King of is coming with his sword so bright. King of is coming to fight the good fight. King of is coming. Uther Pendragon's coming. King of is coming. I said the king of is coming.